So this is, this is the thing that we as conservatives are trying to conserve. We're trying to conserve the idea of playing power centers off each other. And when we see, for instance, Congress losing its power to unelected bureaucrats, we say, oh, that's a bad thing because Congress is supposed to be a central power that plays off against the president and the judiciary. When we see the judiciary being used to make law, no matter what the law is, even if we agree with it, we say, no, that's not their job. They're supposed to play referee. When we see the president acting outside of his role and using executive actions to do what the legislature should do, we know that something is wrong. We are trying to conserve this idea of power. And this is when, there's a really interesting Ross Douthat Ross Douthat is not one of the knuckleheads over at Knucklehead Row. He's actually pretty bright, but he works at Knucklehead Row. So let's go over to Knucklehead Row.
Oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, ho. Let's go waltzing down to Knucklehead Row.
So Knucklehead Row, of course, the op-ed section of the New York Times, which is populated almost entirely by knuckleheads. Charles Blow, one of the most aptly named writers, aptly named people, along with Jeff Flake, is over there. But Ross Douthat is one of the better guys, a guy I like. I don't always agree with him, but I do like him. He's talking about why we miss the WASP. He's talking about George H.W. Bush's funeral going on now, and why it is that people are suddenly kind of aware that, oh, we've lost something in this generation of people. And it was a generation of WASPs. It was a generation of high class people who kind of gathered together and went to the right schools and did the right things and knew the thing. And he says that has been replaced by a meritocracy, right? Doesn't matter if you're a WASP. Doesn't matter if the guy from Eton called in. But he says one of the lessons of the age of meritocracy is that building a more democratic and inclusive ruling class is harder than it looks, and even perhaps a contradiction in terms. You can get rid of the social registers and let women into your secret societies and privilege SAT scores over recommendations from people in high places, and you still end up with something that is clearly a self-replicating upper class, a powerful elite, filling your schools and running your public institutions. Not only that, but you even end up with an elite that literally uses the same strategy of exclusion that WASP once used against Jews to preserve its particular definition of diversity. For instance, keeping out high-achieving Asians from Harvard, with the only difference being that our elite is more determined to deceive itself about how and why it's discriminating. So if some of the elder Bush's mourners wish we still had a WASP establishment, their desire probably reflects a belated realization that certain of the old establishment vices were inherent to any elite. And this is really important because this is the thing that undermines and makes a nonsense out of intersectionality and out of identity politics. People with power remain people with power. And so what all Douthat is saying here is even when you have a new aristocracy, they will still behave like the aristocracy. They will still exclude people. They will still ignore the voice of the people. There is no equality. There's no such thing as equality. Somebody's going to be at the top, and those power centers have to be controlled by placing them in opposition to other power centers. Let me pause here for just a minute.